What's up, spell slingers? Chris, Legendary Mana, and it's deck tech time. Today's deck tech is something that I've been testing a lot lately, and normally I would have a paper version of this and sort of go over the deck with you guys. We're doing animation, but in the sake of time and just being able to get these into your hands, seeing that we are about a week away from game day, I wanted to get these out to you as quickly as possible. So I'm going to do this via the computer and sort of just show you the cards that are in the deck and kind of just talk about it. So today's deck tech is going to be a 4-color ramp. Now, 4-color, is that dangerous? Absolutely. I didn't think this deck would work, but it's very interesting. When I came across this deck, I was like, I'd like to try it out. And I've been testing out, and it's been doing really well. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The first thing we're going to start out is with the creature base. There's 17 creatures, and basically most of the creatures that you're going to see here are going to either generate mana or give you energy, because the idea is you want to ramp into it as quickly as possible. So we're going to start out with 2 Channeler Initiates. Now, basically, it comes in the battlefield with 3 -1/-1 counters on the target creature you control. I would say put it on this creature, because if you tap, you remove a -1/-1 counter from the Initiate, you add 1 mana to your mana pool. As you start taking off -1/-1 counters, you can also generate mana to ramp into. We're running 4 Servant of the Conduits, again, to give you energy, as well as you can pay energy in order to add mana of any color to your mana pool. 2 Whirler Virtuosos. When it enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy. You can pay 3 energy to get 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact token with flying. So in some cases, if you're playing against heavy aggro and they're getting out a lot of creatures, you can use that energy. If you're not using it for something else, use that resource to create Thopter tokens. Tireless Tracker, just one of in the main board. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, investigate, which means you get a clue token to tap 2, sacrifice it to draw a card. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, gets 1 +1/+1 counter. 4 Rogue Refiners. You get a draw. You basically draw a card when you play this card, as well as you get 2 energies. So the synergistic uses of all of the energy and so on and so forth, that sort of gives you the ability to ramp as quickly as possible, because you have Channeler Initiate that you can get early mana from. Servant of the Conduit you can get early mana from. And then you're piling up energy from Whirler Virtuoso and Rogue Refiner, as well as card draws, so that way you can just keep that engine going. And then we have 2 Glorybringers, which basically gets utilized as both a 4/4 flying creature, but also you can use it as removal to do 4 damage to a target non-dragon creature. Then 2 Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hungers. When somebody sees this drop, they're probably going to say, you got it, depending on the board state. Next, we're going to move on to the spells. And the spells in the deck are pretty simple. Attune with Aether to allow you to search your library for a basic land and get more energy. 2 Magma Sprays. Does 2 damage to a target creature and exiles that creature, so deals with a lot of Tireless Tracker, early game Tireless Tracker. A lot of the zombies, tokens, so on and so forth. Harness Lightning. You have all this extra energy that you may not be using. You can then pump it in to destroy a 5/5, 6/6, 8/8 creature. Really helpful late game when you've gained enough mana or you have enough energy generated to be able to pump 5 or 6 energy into Harness Lightning. So it does really well late game and does really well early game. So for instance, turn 1 Crypt Breakers, you can remove them pretty quickly with Harness Lightning. And then say if they play Relentless Dead, turn 2, Magma Spray 'em. You know, they can't bring back their creature because Relentless Dead gets exiled. So definitely a very good 1-2 punch usefulness when it comes to the removal in this deck. Very cheap, very inexpensive, but very, very effective. Hour of Promise. Search your library up to 2 land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Yes, it's 5 mana, but the thing is if you're trying to ramp into getting to Ulamog, your win conditions, Ulamog, and then the next card that we're going to talk about, Nicol Bolas, getting that land is going to be very important. And turn 5, there's really not much else except for Glorybringer. So if you already have Glorybringer out, or if you already have, you know, a Chandra out, you can then use this to ramp into more land or mana as quickly as possible. Which then leads us to our Planeswalkers. Nicol Bolas, the God-Pharaoh, 2 of them. Pretty boss card in this build. I was kind of skeptical at first, but once you're able to play him, he's pretty good. And I have 0 complaints about him in this deck. 2, Chandra, Torch of the Defiance. Typically, I'm using it for mana. However, let's just say there's a creature that you need to sort of get rid of. And I think of a situation that happened to me was Amet Eternal came out 5/5. Well, with Amet Eternal, when your opponent or yourself casts a spell, Amet Eternal gets -1/-1 counter. So basically, Chandra Torch of Defiance comes out, Amet Eternal gets a -1/-1. You -3 Chandra, then you can destroy Emmet because it's now a 4/4. So it's very, universal to get rid of some creatures like that or any of the 4/4 creatures. And I think about also any of the creatures that, the God-Pharaoh, Hour of the God-Pharaoh, or whatever it is, the artifact that, Throne of the God-Pharaoh, I think is what it is. And it brings back a creature from your graveyard and makes it a 4/4 zombie. Well, again, 4 damage with Torch of Defiance, it can remove that. So it does really good and curves out really well at the 4 slot. So I was, again, like I said, I was very skeptical of this build. But as I got to playing it and testing it over and over again, I really like the build. It's still, I think, slightly clunky, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But I think the core is there. I really like it, and I'm going to continue to work on it and continue to see how well it does in the meta. Then, 2 Chandra Flamecallers. Now, this is one card that I'm not 100% sold on because it doesn't really synergize with anything else. Other than the fact that you can do damage to each creature, or you can discard cards in your hand and then draw that many cards +1, or you get 2 3/1 red elemental creatures. I find myself at the 6th slot. This is not doing well within the deck, but there are some instances that I was glad to have it. So, although I have reservations, I do really like having it when it's needed. So, I think overall, it's actually a decent card. I am still thinking and trying to figure out what could I put in place of that. If you have any thoughts or any ideas with that, leave the comments in the below. Now, the mana base is pretty straightforward. You have 3 forests, 2 mountains, 1 island, 1 swamp, 2 Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, 2 Lumbering Falls, 3 Botanical Sanctums, 2 Cinder Glades, 3 Spirebluff Canals, and 4 Aether Hubs. So, one of the things that I think about too is with all of this energy production, even if you're early game, you only pull out 2 Aether Hubs, you can do pretty well with yourself. I've actually started the game with 2 Aether Hubs the other day and still came out ahead and was able to pull out the win. So sideboard. What in the world would you put in the sideboard for a 4-color ramp deck? Well, it's actually quite a few of the same pieces, with a few minor tweaks. We're adding in 2 Tireless Trackers in the sideboard, 2 Bristling Hydras, 2 more Magma Sprays, just in case if you have a heavy aggro deck, 1 additional Ulamog Ceaseless Hungers, 3 Negates, 2 Liliana's Defeat to destroying black creatures or Liliana Planeswalker. Believe it or not, I've seen a lot of Liliana the Last Hope. Radiant Flames. I don't think there's much to talk about that, but it's a good sweeper. And Scavenger Grounds. I actually didn't know about this until I saw this deck and was sort of playing it and picked it up. And basically, you tap 2, sacrifice a desert, exile all cards from all graveyards. This kind of helps with ones that deal with cycling and deal with all of the Eternalize or Embalm cards. If there's a lot of those strategies that I've seen that sort of, like Throne of the God-Pharaoh allows you to just exile, cards from graveyards. Now, I always like to show you the stats of the deck, and what's the mana curve and cost and so on and so forth. So we're going to switch over to deck stats and sort of just show you that information. The mana distribution is pretty even out. It's pretty good when it comes to sources and all that good stuff. So I really like how it plays and it curves out. So that's pretty sound. The deck itself, currently right now, would be TCG price would be $232.52 for all of the cards. Now, granted, likely if you're playing standard and you're playing in tournaments, a lot recently, or you've played a lot of recent Magic, there's a lot of Kaladesh cards. There's quite a few Battle for Zendikar cards. So likely you have quite a few of these cards. Probably some of the additions you wouldn't have would be the Nicol Bolas, Hour of Promise, and let's see, I think that's it. I mean, yeah, those are the only Hour of Devastation cards in this set. You have Chandra Flamecaller, which is from Oath of the Gatewatch, and Tireless Tracker, which is from Shadows of Innistrad. But majority, you have Kaladesh, Aether Revolt with Rogue Refiner. And then Amon Ket, we have Chandra Initiate, Glorybringer, Magma Spray. So, and then everything else is BFC, Battle for Zendikar. So, not bad though. $232 for the whole deck, as well as the sideboard is only about $30. So you're talking about $260 full out for this deck. So we'll see here. I'm going to put on the screen the probability sheet. And this will kind of give you the idea of, what are the probabilities of having some of these cards. So that's the deck. I will put the deck list in the description below. Let me know what you think. Have you seen something like this, or have you tested against something like this? What are your thoughts on this deck? I really want to know. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the deck tech. I enjoyed talking and giving you guys my input on it. Until next time, I bid you farewell.